Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Son of a Blitch podcast. I am your host, George Blitch, and this is going to be a very, very fun episode for y'all to tune into. My guest today is Jesse Griffiths. You guys might know him from owning the restaurant Daidue in Austin, his cooking and hunting school, New School of Traditional Cookery. You can learn about both of those at daidue.com, daidue.com. And you might be familiar with his cookbooks, A Field, as well as the Hog Book, which won a James Beard Award as well. And now, as of today, technically yesterday, but now he is offering the pre-orders for the latest cookbook, the Turkey Book. This book is phenomenal. It takes you through the journey of his last turkey hunting season, where he goes to Texas, Georgia, Oregon, and Connecticut. He's got so many wonderful buddies that are with him. Ben O'Brien's there, Jean-Paul Bourgeois. You got Jonathan Wilkins. You got Elias Cairo, Brad Leone, Dan Miser. I mean, just some really wonderful people and great chefs. And what are they doing after they're hunting? They're cooking some wild turkey and they're sharing those recipes. You got Jody Horton and Sam Everett that are there taking photos along the way. Some phenomenal photography in this book. And Jesse really upped his game in writing, man. These are the narrative and him writing through this and talking about the dishes that are created in their time out in the field. It's really, really entertaining and educational. I mean, it's hard to put this book down. My wife Meg can attest. I was reading it every single night and then flipped it over and started it again. I love this book. It's great. I think you guys are all gonna enjoy it, get something from it. And as far as like the cookbook nature of things, there's an index of cuts on, each page will talk about, if you're going to be doing the thighs, if you're going to be doing the wings, if you're going to be doing the breast, if you're going to be doing some slow cooking stuff. There's just a little bit of something for everyone, no matter how you want to cook it. There's something there for you. And there's a lot of inclusions of not only Jesse's dishes, but some of, the guys I just mentioned too. There's a lot of their dishes that are in there as well. So you kind of get a taste and flavor and, background from a lot of different chefs from all across the country that are bringing together, I think, the best representation of cooking turkey and turkey hunting that is out there. So you guys go over to thewildbooks.com today and place your pre-order for this book. There's also going to be some package deals with the Turkey Federation, where you can get a membership and you can get a little discount on the book too. So go check out those bundles. I mean, there's going to be some really cool stuff for you guys to check out on that website. Go order the Hog Book if you haven't already. That is just a phenomenal book as well. I can't say enough about all the wonderful things Jesse's been part of, and just a stand-up great guy who really cares about conservation and educating people and teaching people to teach others. It's infectious. He's got a great spirit. I love sitting down with him. He's a great guy, and I think you guys are going to learn a lot from him and be entertained by this podcast. So without further ado, here is my podcast with Jesse Griffiths. Y'all enjoy. Jesse, how you doing today, man?
I'm great. How have you been, George?
I've been really good, man. You had a good hunting season so far?
I've had yes, I have. It's been fairly mellow. I'm saving myself for spring. So I mean, I feel like I've got so many expendable days per year, and I put them in the bank in fall and winter, and I'm going to cash them in the spring. So it's been a good one, but I'm it's really going to get going here in a little while.
So obviously we got turkey season coming up. Yesterday you just announced the arrival of the turkey book. You started pre-orders. Man, just let's lay that out a little bit, man. This is a fascinating book. You sent me a digital copy. I went through it and it is phenomenal. Why don't you go ahead and just kind of maybe set up to the listeners what this one is about, what they're going to come to expect from the turkey book.
Yeah, well, thank you. First off, I appreciate the kind review.
Cheers.
Um, yeah, we put this one together pretty fast. And conceptually, I really I always say this. I say this all the time. It's like dress for the job you want. And I'm like, I want to do some more turkey hunting. And so the best way to justify that sometimes is to write a book about it, which is what I decided to do. And um, as it developed conceptually, I realized that I didn't want to repeat the hog book. I didn't want to just do like just all the butchery and everything kind of like encapsulated the same way. And what it really kind of panned out and what became in the end was more of a journal where we just took the slice of one season. We started in Texas, which is further south, and the season opened earlier, and then we ended up in Connecticut, in late or probably mid to late May
Mhm.
of the same season, and just kind of decided to take it as almost like a journal with a ton of recipes in it. And so, like I said, we started in Texas, then we went to Georgia, then we went to Oregon, and then went to Connecticut. So we hit some very diverse geographic regions, it's very diverse cultural regions, and hunted for different turkeys and very different circumstances. Um, with a bunch of very, I think, interesting people that were either chefs that love to hunt turkeys or turkey hunters that love to cook turkeys. And so what that gave us was this like multiple perspectives and inputs as far as hunting turkeys and also how to cook them. And then we were cooking them in real time. And as we were cooking turkeys in camp, which I think is really important. It's just like
Oh
I
yeah.
like to eat turkey while I'm turkey hunting. Sorry, and it's like, so we'd get one and we'd cook the liver and the gizzard, or we'd throw a leg in the crock pot, or this or that, and then we would document that as we went. Sometimes I'm cooking, sometimes they're cooking, and so we got a lot of recipes out of it that way, as long as a lot of really just great hunting stories. I thought, I mean, just like
Yeah.
real. Some of them were kind of boring. I mean, the boring stuff didn't really make the book. Like I'm not going to document sitting under a tree for seven hours. I think anybody who's ever been turkey hunting knows what your legs feel like after that happens.
Right.
But we had a run in with the poacher. We had we got scooped on public land. Somebody shot our bird. We had instant success. We had long waits. We had name it bad weather. It was like hot. It was snowing uh, all over the place. And so that really influenced those stories a lot. And then the ability to weave in some of the real time recipes. And then in between, we took some of the hog book approach and doing some butchery diagrams, which, it's turkeys a lot smaller, doesn't require the same like finesse and variety that you would approach a hog with. Um, or a deer for that matter. But I think there is a lot of really interesting butchery that can be done with turkeys that will just improve how they cook and just improve your overall experience with eating them. And so kind of diverged into that between chapters and then addressed the different major parts of the turkey and then did banks of recipes in between. Like as between these hunts, I'd be like playing around at home and being like, I'm going to try this with turkey. And so just creating a lot more recipes to go along with it. And I think we ended up with about 115 recipes, and all of them. I really wanted all the recipes to be very unique, something new. If it was a classic recipe, I wanted to add a new twist. If it was if it was something that I could present a technique, like here's how to just simply roll enchiladas, but then we would provide four different sauces after that. So I think that building up people's kind of Rolodex of skills in the kitchen is really important too. And as you compile books or watch YouTube videos and stuff, and you start to get familiar with how to make a certain type of dish, then you can start to vary from that. And I think that really gives people confidence in the kitchen. So we focused a lot on that too, as far as recipes. Um, Delved into culture and history and little things like that, like the role of the NWTF, and just talking to people that were in conservation and all kinds of stuff, land management. We just tried to weave as much as we could in there, and all told, turned it around pretty quick, got it to the printer, and if fingers crossed, it should be here right before turkey season, which would be a pretty fast turnaround considering that we went on these turkey hunts last turkey season. So,
Yeah, that's a
yeah.
super fast turnaround. I mean, most people I know working on books, it's like a 2 year thing, man. I mean, it for you to be able to knock this out and within that before the next season starts, you have this book in hand. Congratulations on that, man. I mean, it's a phenomenal book. I was very impressed. I've always thought you were a good writer from, reading, other books and just times you've maybe posted things and you're very eloquent. And this really took it to another level. I really enjoyed reading along with the hunts and kind of getting, your perspective. on different things that were happening, and just kind of obviously the wild world of unpredictable turkeys, man. You just never know what's going to happen. And there's some really funny stories in there, and there's some serious stuff too. And I'll jump into that in a little bit. But I kind of wanted to ask about, as far as, Jesse the writer, when you decided that you're going to write this book, and then you have these hunts, what does it look like for your process of writing? Are you taking notes throughout these hunts to kind of keep things fresh? Are you looking back on videos and photography and stuff to maybe kind of, scoop up some of those memories? What does that look like? And then how did you, like, what was your discipline, I guess, for sitting down and actually writing it as well? So, just kind of very curious about that side of things.
Yeah, well, I think to this day, I don't even consider myself a writer. I just like transcribe what I would be saying out loud, if that makes
Right.
any
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
I I would take notes on my phone, like especially if somebody I was in the car with said something really interesting. I'd just be like, like, oh, that was great, Kevin. Did you say that again, please? And Kevin had a lot of them. Kevin Harlander, my friend, he's up in Oregon. He just has just a constant flow of wisdom and it's just very subtle. I'm like, man, he just sitting over. It's like 4:45 in the morning, and you're this smart. Um, but I would, take some notes and really just try to, just mostly to preserve memory because after 4 days of hunting, sometimes things get a little foggy, like the
Oh yeah.
sequence, and especially you add in like just abject boredom and then punctuated by a lot of adrenaline, just so it makes things hard to focus. And I would try to write on the plane back. So, I mean, a lot of times I was flying to these places because they're so far away.
Hmm.
Um, and I would try to create a skeleton of that story on the way back, and then like from there it's just like early mornings. I just get up and before the house really wakes up, I would just try to hammer out a little bit here and there and try to refine it, and just went from there. And yeah, I really appreciate you saying that because I love hunting stories. I always have. I remember when I was a kid, my parents gave me Jimmy Carter's book, former president.
Hmm.
He wrote an outdoor book on about hunting and fishing. And I had this when I was like 8, and I think it was then that I really realized that I just loved reading stories about hunting,
Yeah.
I was sitting under the tree, and then like, and then what, you know, and so I enjoy stories, and so I think that obviously that's the approach I take too, and I hope that everybody else enjoys stories too. So yeah, that was kind of how I went about it, and I think it worked well to convey not only my voice but the voice of all these other people that I was so lucky to hunt with.
Yeah, and there's quite a cast. I mean, in your Texas, you had Jean Paul Bourgeois, you had Ben O'Brien, Jonathan Wilkins from
Yes,
Black Duck
yes.
Revival was there as well. Was there anybody else that was a part of that? Am I missing?
Well, just the photographer
Yeah.
who the silent invisible photographer that was there the whole time. So mostly Jody Horton, who
Hmm.
I've worked with. This is our third book
Yep.
together. But in Georgia and Oregon, we worked with a new photographer who was just a recommendation and turned out to be just a real incredible human being, Sam Averett. And he came from a hunting background. And so we brought him along. His photography is phenomenal, but more so, he was also able to, like, I mean, his positioning, just the way that he moved into the woods was that of a hunter. And of course, Jody, who has always provided just the most excellent food photography and in the field photography as well. So he would go out with us in Texas and in Connecticut and captured a lot of really good stuff. So I mean, still photography in turkeys is hard. I mean, as is video. If you watch YouTube, those guys that self-film their hunts, I'm just like, you guys are insane. Like they're so good at it. But capturing uh, the most wary of birds with a camera can be hard. But yes, there was that was the sorry, I diverged a little bit, but
All
that was
good.
the crew from Texas, and then in Georgia we were with Chris Jenkins, who is a conservationist, and he's a member of the BHA board. And he runs a project called the Orion Society in Southeast Georgia. And then up in Oregon, I was with Elias Cairo, who's a chef,
Mhm.
and also my friend Kevin Harlander, who's kind of just been in the hunting industry forever. And then in Connecticut chef Dan Miser and Brad Leone, who does a little bit of everything.
Yeah, indeed. I actually just interviewed him, and we talked like a little bit about his book too, which kind of was like a year of him going out and hunting, fishing, foraging, and cooking, and just like it was really cool, man. Just those last his book and then yours, the last two that I've really jumped in on. It's really neat to see the idea of like storylines going through, weaving in with cooking. But I feel like there's like that real time thing where, like you said, you're taking pictures and you guys are cooking these dishes there, and then you're borrowing, you're like, hey, Elias has this one, Brad has this one, Jean Paul has this, and you're bringing those in and having, you know, I mean, I haven't seen a lot of cookbooks where someone puts it out and they're sharing a bunch of other people's stuff. I mean, unless it's like a big collective cookbook. And I really, really appreciated that there's just different flavors. Obviously, you got Jean Paul and what he's bringing in, that kind of Cajun style and stuff, and East Coast, everything's a little bit different, and everyone has their own kind of repertoire of what they're going to bring to the table. But I really love the variety of the recipes, and I mean, it's just, man, it's such a great book. Like you said, the images are second to none, man. You've got a great team with you there, and it's just fun getting the personalities. It's a very entertaining book and educational, like, but best of both worlds, man. I mean, I love the Hog book. I love a field. I've used them often. I share them with friends. I've given them as gifts. Like those are phenomenal, and there's nothing that's taken away from that. It's just something about getting a little bit more of the story and the writing. Just really, I don't know, man. It just it resonated with me, and again, I'm not trying to toot your horn too much, but like I want to see more writing, man. It was phenomenal. I loved reading everything you had, man. You weaved it together really well. I really liked how you also brought in some interesting takes. There was, I forgot the guy's Adriano. I mean, I know I got his name here.
The Italian pop star.
Dude, I love that reference. Can you set that up real quick? You want to go ahead and tell people a little bit about that and what your reference was there?
Yeah. I think this spring we're probably I'll get there really quick. I'm buddies with the guys in the Element,
Yeah, yeah.
They're phenomenal humans. I love them so much. We're gonna go on a turkey hunt, and I've never been on a video turkey hunt, and I'm very nervous because my calling is atrocious. Maybe I don't know. It works though.
It
it
works.
works. I mean, I got turkey in the freezer to
5
prove
birds
it.
down in 4 states, man.
Well, to be clear, I wasn't doing all of the calling there. A lot of times Ben is like, "I got you. Why don't you put that thing away?" I'm not the best. And I tend to overanalyze things, or maybe I just I just have a different perspective. And in the 70s, there was this Italian pop star, and I guess at the time, maybe he was a little bitter or frustrated that pretty much any American pop song, no matter the quality, would be at the top of the charts in Italy, and all it had to be was just like an American pop song. So he retaliated by recording this song that sounds like English, and the song is objectively great too. I mean, it's just like, it is a total banger. It is just awesome. But you're listening to it and you're like, yeah, I mean, even as an English speaker, you're like, oh, this guy's, but what is he saying? And he's not saying anything. It's just gibberish. And so, yeah, I equated my turkey calling to that, where I think, and not to anthropomorphize turkeys too much. Some people are very offended by that. I do it all the time, though. I don't care. I guess I have to latch onto some kind of perspective, just some reasoning as to why the animals behave a certain way. And the only way I can, figure it out is to put it in a human term.
Mm-hmm.
And I assume that the gobblers are just like, what is she saying? It's good enough, I guess. Like it's definitely, it's a hen, I think. Or, I don't know, but anyway, but I do kind of equate my calling with that song, which is just absolute gibberish. With the exception, he does say, "All right."
All right. Yep.
Yeah. It's funny. Yeah, any listeners out there, do yourselves a favor and go check that song out. It's very good.
Yes. Adriano Celentano. The name is like, it's 24 letters. It's you'll just have to look it up. If you just write American gibberish or something in there and do the search, Adriano Celentano. But I remember hearing this years ago and hadn't heard about that song. I mean, in like a decade. I mean, obviously, you and I are both way into music and stuff. So it was like when I saw that reference, I was like, I know that, and I completely know what you're saying. There's been
Yeah,
times I'm calling a turkey in, and you're like, all right, cool, it's coming in. All of a sudden, you hear like a real hen, sound off, and it's like turning, going the other way. I'm like, it was almost there. It was
yeah,
almost there. If that hen wasn't there, maybe I could have called him in. But
yeah, yeah, pretty much.
so another thing that I was wondering, and this is a very, very serious question: how did you survive a morning hunt without coffee? What
Oh,
happened there? What?
it was brutal, and I don't even know how that all went down. I mean, it's one of those things where you're the guest, and I'm just keep nervously like looking around. I'm just like, where is it? It's just like, I mean, there was maybe six of us in a room, and it's morning, sun's not up, and I'm like, another one of them has got to make this move, and I didn't really want to be the one. And eventually we were running so far behind because we were having to fill out our permission slips, multiples, because we are like planning on potentially hunting in like 3 or 4 different properties that day. So each one of us is filling out. This is Connecticut, by the way,
Mhm.
which, I mean, and then I think my brain is just trying to grasp that as well. Like, why all the paperwork? If this was Texas, it'd just be like, "Are you guys ready?" Well, I'll be actually like,
Don't shoot
here,
anyone. Yeah.
here's a cup of coffee. Are you guys ready? And but no, it was very different. And so we're trying to fill these out. And I think it wasn't common. It wasn't people being inhospitable. We were also
Right.
very behind,
Sure, sure, sure.
and needed to get it was starting to get light outside. We
That's
still
a
had a
lot
bit
of
of
people to rally.
a
Sure.
drive, and it was just like, we gotta make this happen. Um, and so, yeah, it was yeah, no, joking aside, yeah, hooking or hunting without a coffee is rough. It's rough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is like my baby blanket for Linus kind of thing. Like this, I'm keeping this around all the time. I always have coffee in it. I mean, I can be drinking it to the cheers, sir. Cheers
Yeah,
to you.
sure. Here's
So,
this my coffee. Yeah,
and I just saw that and I was like, wait, what? I can't imagine a hunt without coffee, man. So it was tough, but y'all got it done, so it worked out. And
yeah,
when you get back, you're like, hey guys, tomorrow morning we got to have some coffee.
yeah. I think we made like strong countermeasures the next day. Like, there was some plotting, between the other coffee drinkers. But to be clear, Ben O'Brien has never, and I repeat, has never tasted coffee. And now he's in it so far as a fully grown non-coffee consumer that he can't do it. You know what I mean? Like, once you get to a certain point, you can't go back. And so Ben, my dear friend, has never tasted coffee. He's of course smelled it and seen people consuming it, but it has never passed his lips.
I love when you include that. You're like, we all had coffee, and then Ben didn't because he didn't drink coffee, so he did whatever non-coffee drinkers do. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
the mystery. What do you have? Tea and water? What
yeah, he
what
drinks water.
clean water?
Yeah,
It's
yeah. Well, he's
clean
also
water.
a very good turkey hunter, and he's very alert in the mornings.
Well, that's
So yeah,
there you
there's no,
go. So
yeah,
he doesn't need it, man. He's got the natural caffeine kicking or something, man. Good
yeah.
for him. So, I wanted to guess, I was going to ask you too about what you have planned this season. You're talking about working with, the Element Boys, Tyler Jones, Casey Smith.
Hmm.
I assume, they're Texas based. You're probably going to be doing something in Texas. Can you kind of talk about the region you're hunting, maybe without giving too much away?
Yeah, hill country. We'll be out,
Yeah.
which is my favorite place to hunt turkeys in Texas. I mean, I don't know. That's a ridiculous statement. Anywhere, I don't care. In fact, I would love to be able to diversify the places I've hunted turkeys in Texas. But yeah, I'll be hunting with them, I think, in early April,
Hmm.
which should be, if nothing else, peak bluebonnets, especially at this property. I went there last year. Did not shoot a turkey there, but a stunning, I mean, like postcard looking property as far as bluebonnets go. Like, just, I mean, incredible. And then milk thistle and oaks and hills and stuff like that. So yeah, hill country, not too far from here, probably an hour and a half from Austin.
Hmm.
But yeah, doing that. A lot of Texas hunts lined up. Probably maybe too many. I mean, take 4 birds, so I can
Too many turkeys? I'm
you
sorry.
know what I
Did
mean?
I hear you right?
Too many. Well, my fear being is that I might have. I'm getting way ahead of myself anyway. But definitely a lot of opportunities, and I will go on all of them, even
Yeah.
if I am for some magical reason tagged out. I'll still go and carry decoys or whatever for someone else. A trip to New Mexico planned too, which I'm exceedingly excited about. I've never hunted turkeys or anything in New Mexico for that matter. I've got a lot of familial connections there. My mom's family is from New Mexico, and
Oh, cool.
I've always traveled there for vacations in the summer since I was a kid. And I just love New Mexico, and finally was able to put together a trip there. It'll be all public land, just a real challenge, going in blind, never having been even to this region, and going in and hunting, pressured turkeys in the mountains. So it's going to be hard. I'm already trying to focus on just like if you get a bird, you're going to be like that's going to be great, like far beyond your expectations. And I'm really going into it with just like it'll be a good way to just earn some experience, in
Yeah.
doing that and chasing them in a different spot. But also it's turkey hunting. You might shoot one in the first 15 minutes, just because you never know. And in the book, you'll notice I kill a turkey on the first day in every spot.
Yeah.
And I
But another part of it is like, and you're also calling for someone else in some of those sits too. Like they came around to you. Like it's amazing. Like you're like trying
that's
to help my
true.
buddy out here, but
That is true. Well, that really drove home. And I want to be really clear when I say that I killed it one on the first. I'm not good. I don't know what I am. I'm a little bit lucky. But that situation where I would be, I was the host in Texas, and both times I was like, "Hey, you're at bat here." We had a turkey, and we're talking to him, and both times that turkey circled around to me, and I was doing the calling. And I think that the real take home there is that you cannot underestimate their echolocation abilities. Like they have that sound dialed to a square foot, maybe. Like so, even if you're sitting 4 feet away from your friend, they're coming to the sound of that,
Mhm.
and they've got that so dialed. And if the brush dictates, then they're going to circle around at both times. And we always function on a like whoever's got the shot, take
Yeah,
it.
right,
It's like,
yeah,
I would prefer it if it was, my buddy, and both times. And one time it was Jonathan, and one time it was Jean Paul. Both times I'm like, okay, buddy, you're up. And then both times I'm like, I'm doing this because, we might not have another opportunity.
sure,
So yeah, but it was pretty incredible. And it's just one of the thousands of things that you can learn about these birds, and or discover. It's just like how truly fascinating they are, how masterful they are at living, surviving in the woods.
yeah. What are some other takeaways that maybe accumulative knowledge over the years, or something that was maybe highlighted, or something new that you learned? Maybe kind of aside from that, and the idea that they're coming to the calls and they have that
Mm.
direct focus. Is there some other things you kind of picked up throughout this year, and working in many different states and different lands that you were on?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like it just sounds trite, but patience. You really you can't, not sometimes, a lot of times you really have to slow down a lot and really just like take it easy and make more calculated decisions. Except when you don't want to do that and you want to move very quickly and make very quick decisions, that's a total non-answer. But I think most of the time I would be better served personally in my approach to slowing it down a little bit and not overthinking it, and also realizing they might be on their way. And that's what I love about watching other more experienced hunters is how they can often tell that they're on the way, or they're like, I think he's on his way. And I'm just like, how do you know that? I would be second guessing and say, if I don't hear the turkey, he's gone the opposite way or something, but which he might have. There's a lot to be learned, and I think it's almost too nuanced to summarize.
Yeah.
And I hope that I have conveyed that in the book adequately, because but that's the great part of it. It's just like when you do things right, or when you luck into doing things right, that's when it feels great. But also when things don't go right and you fail, sometimes it stings at the time, but in retrospect, it's almost always a very good feeling of just being out there and having having at least absorbed a little bit extra knowledge. You just like it's just a lifetime spent out there is going to just get you closer to being great at it.
Oh, absolutely, man. I'm fascinated with turkey hunting. I was telling, someone the other day that I've probably killed maybe, I think at this time, maybe 14 or 15 turkeys in my life. And really the last year or two, the first time I ever went turkey hunting, I would always just see him opportunistically on one of the ranches, grab the shotgun, and be coming through the house and, kind of run up to the next spot where there'd be a crossing and, I'd get lucky. And then it just happened like that. And then, in Central Texas, there's a field that's pretty bountiful for us each year. We usually, get one or two, and sometimes you just kind of walk to the edge of the field and they'll just kind of be there, and you're taking a 50-yard shot, and it's just gotten lucky. And then the other year when I started calling them in and really trying to get my buddy one, that was a game changer, Jesse. I did not understand the infatuation that was about to come with turkey hunting. Like, I mean, it is my favorite type of hunting now. And I'd love, you and I have talked at length of different, hog hunting adventures and deer and stuff too. But there is something about having that call and response, and also that not knowing, like you were saying too, you don't know if they're coming up. And sometimes all of a sudden it's like, boop, little head pops up. You're like, oh my gosh. Like I had no idea there was anything even here. And then it can turn Western real quick, man. It
Mm-hmm.
is so exciting. And I had a buddy last year, Colin, he's the other half of Matt, my ranch, and we called one in, and it was just past that level of where he was comfortable, but he was like, that was the coolest thing. Cause we actually walked underneath the tree that we thought was a good one. And all of a sudden we heard them all going up. We were underneath the roost tree and we were like, oh, let's step back,
Oh, yeah.
and had no idea. Like I thought they were in another tree from the night before. Right. And so they had just kind of moved game. And so that was the most exciting thing. And it was, I kind of bring that back to the idea of some of the things of preparing for success. One of the things you mentioned in your book, and you even have a picture too of like a turkey head target that has like the kind of the glow spots. Wherever you shoot, you'll see where the BBs are going to hit to see if you get a vital shot. And you talked about going in and making sure you guys are patterning your gun, because my buddy, if he had gone and tested at 50 yards, he would have seen he'd be hitting vitals with his shotgun, but he didn't do that ahead of time, and so he didn't know his distance. And I think that's something that's really important. And I kind of want to talk a little bit to you about your equipment, what you use. I know you talked about a red dot, and you're using that. That's something I haven't done, so I'm very curious to pick your brain on what you think of that versus just regular iron sights and such. And kind of preparing, like what advice do you give to people so that they can get a turkey in their hands and then be able to utilize your book to kind of explore it further? Maybe some lessons that you kind of learned throughout your years and what you saw some of these other hunters do as far as preparation. I mean, I assume range time is probably step one, right?
Certainly. But with the cost of TSS, range time can be real short.
Yeah.
It's like, how much time do you want to spend throwing $15 down range every shot? But I mean, the point must be made that people have killed turkeys with, a standard pump, and number six lead for many, many years, and they've killed them adequately and with great skill. I would say, technologically, and I'm not even where close to like a gearhead, or I get
Yeah.
really excited about this stuff. I usually choose the most functional tool in my price range.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I've settled on, I shoot a Gearson semi-auto that I really like a lot. It's just been, you can beat it up pretty good, and put a red dot on it. And that was super helpful. And to be very clear, the red dot was given to us, so it's like, I mean, I get it. I want to be very, very transparent about these. It's like,
Yeah.
would I have put a red dot on there otherwise? I don't know. Probably. I think I would have eventually. The red dot I put on about halfway through the season, so I actually didn't have it. Oh no, I'm sorry. I put it on after the first hunt, and so I do credit that red dot with two of my turkeys that were shot at such awkward angles that I don't know if I could have personally made that shot. And both of them were pretty long shots, over 40, probably over 45 yards on both of them. One of them completely twisted 180 degrees around, the other one at a very awkward uphill angle with a snow drift above us, and this turkey kind of bobbing around below the crest of this hill. And we had obviously spooked it, but it had stopped long enough. And the red dot allows you to make such a quick acquisition, both eyes full, and wherever, obviously wherever the red dot is where the boom's going. So that worked out real well for me a couple times, and I just became a real fan of the red dot. Um, Again, shooting TSS, and again, with the transparency, I got a couple boxes of it for this project,
Mm-hmm.
and I after that, I think I would save my pennies for it because I firmly believe that it's a very ethical killer too. I mean, it's crazy that a pellet of that size can just zip through a turkey's neck, but you get a few of them on target, and that turkey's going to die. And so I feel like it's a very worthwhile piece of equipment. And the thing is, you're not shooting dubs with it, and so it's like a box. I mean, if you are able to pattern it, and then you're in Texas, then you conceivably one box of five will get you through the whole season. Um, and a turkey yields a lot of meat. I'm always approaching things like that. It's like,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
$15, yeah, but I mean, get about yields about 55% of its body weight, and so it's 20 pounds, and so you're still, you're still looking at a pretty good
Good
shot
ratio.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, good ratio there. I do like that a lot. I recently bought my daughter the Stevens single shot, and those things are really cool. They're very highly rated as turkey guns. They're about 5 or 6 pounds. They're a little bit smaller, and they're a single shot. But most of all, the MSRP on these things is around $200, and they're very good shotguns. And but it's a single shot, but still most of the time you're going to be okay with that. Um, and so that's what I bought that for her, quote unquote. But I also have a strong feeling that in the mountains of New Mexico, I'm going to be lugging that thing around because it is so light, and it's a little 20 gauge
20. Yeah, I was about to
too.
ask. Okay.
So I think the technology is just so good these days that you're able to
Yeah.
get like these little. I mean, even this cheap little single shot, and then spend your money on TSS after
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And so and that's kind of the plan is pop a red dot on that for her, and then be able to carry that around in the turkey woods. And another thing I love about it is like you can really approach it with a very like a modicum of equipment. A couple calls, whatever calls you're comfortable with. I mean, you can get a vest or not. You can do it with a fanny pack. You probably need a face mask. You need a hat. I think gloves are probably pretty helpful.
Mm-hmm.
All these things, but you can be highly mobile, just a water bottle and your gun and, a sandwich in your pocket, and you can pretty much get after them for a day. And I love that too. It's like I mean, of course you can go overboard with the gear. I mean, anybody, that's into it will, but I like it because you can kind of get away with just minimal gear out there.
Yeah, no, it's so true, man. And I definitely I've started using some of the TSS this last year and been pretty pleased with. I mean, I didn't get to put a shot on a turkey last year. I was calling them in for friends and just never worked out time wise. But patterning them, I felt like it was really great grouping. And some of the stuff that I've even tried before, it's high end. And it was lead, but it was a higher end cost. Things like $10 a shell. It was shooting like crap for my gun. But then I handed over to my buddy, and his was lights out with it. So like I encourage everybody to try it. Grab a few things off the shelf, see what works best with your rifle. And that goes for hunting, a deer rifle as well. Find out exactly what works best with your stuff and give yourself the best chance of success. Because it could be the, $7 box of Remington. It could be, the TSS stuff. And, I definitely think there's a lot to that, and that technology has come a long way from, what I grew up with. So I think, there's like two on the shelf when I was, a kid.
Yeah.
Get this one or that one. So
Yeah.
we definitely have tried a bunch of them out, but it's fun to see those, and those shoot and see targets too. You can get them with the turkey head on and see kind of what your success will be at different ranges. So I highly suggest that. When we're talking about different turkeys, obviously, let's see, we got Rio Grande in Texas, the Eastern, the Miriam when you were over there in Oregon. The I guess the last one in your turkey slam would be it's the what's it called, the
Osceola.
Osceola. Have
Right.
you had one yet? And that's mainly in like Florida, right?
Right. I believe there's 5 counties in Florida. We were in southeastern Georgia, so we were close by. I mean, we're still hours from
Yeah.
the range of the Osceola, and initially I had considered trying to do that, but then I realized I didn't want to just portray a slam, because also with the Osceola, if you're not able to draw public there, which is available,
Hmm.
you have to put in some years of putting in. But you can draw that. But then otherwise, it's fairly walled off and pretty expensive to do that. And so I didn't really want to represent like some sort of just going out there for this slam.
Yeah.
But I did want to represent the topography. So that's why we chose southeastern Georgia, and we were hunting palmetto swamps and pine flats and savannas and stuff like that. So fairly similar to the range of the Osceola, which is kind of if I remember correctly, it's kind of like a subvariant of the Eastern.
Hmm.
They share a lot of qualities, and we were hunting Easterns there. Definitely Rio Grande in Texas. In Oregon, hard to say the buff side, but if it was a Rio, it was a little on the white side, so it might have been a hybrid. It was definitely a mountain bird, and everybody I was with was like Miriam's. But if you look at a map, it's debatable what it was. But it definitely, you know, it was a situation where I was hunting in a place, in a circumstance that was so far different than anything I ever had. Like we were in 3 foot deep snow and hunting these and mountain birds. There's like a running stream, full of runoff, melting snow, and then pines, and there's mallards flying around, and just a total situation like that. So, if not a Miriam's, then a Miriam situation.
Yeah. And well, I mean, you in that situation there too, you ended up, I think you were saying, I forgot if it was Kevin or Ben, who was like, don't forget, you need to get some snowshoes, right? And you're like, wait, huh?
Yeah, yeah. It was. I mean, when checking in before we flew out for that hunt, he gave us a weather update, and I mean, it was 17 degrees in the morning, one morning when we were out there hunting, and it was snowing overnight. So we'd walk out, and there was like a fresh layer of snow. I mean, spring came late that year, and it made the hunting. It was very, very difficult because we just couldn't go anywhere. It was not only snow, but it had a kind of an ice pack on top, and so every time you took a step, it was just the loudest thing, way louder than leaves, dead
Right.
leaves. It was just very, very loud. A very difficult hunt, but I did still manage to get a bird on the first morning. I mean,
Yep.
through what we walked up on one, and didn't shoot that one, but we're in the process of calling that one in. A little satellite, not a little, but a satellite gobbler, I guess a subdominant bird, was like, this is my chance. See, here I go again. I think he saw his chance, and he never gobbled, but we could hear him drumming above us, and it was hard to tell where all these sounds were coming from. We're in this kind of canyon with a lot of running water, and one very loud gobbler down the road kind of talking to us, but at the same time I kept being like, there's a gobbler drumming right above us, and I mean like right above us. And it turns out there was. But it was a very awkward climb. We had to like kind of, find good footing and then be able to stick our heads up just to even see. We're on a very steep, probably steeper than 45-degree angle slope at this point, kind of wedged behind some trees. And it was, I think it was probably 10 to 15 yards from us up this slope. And, finally, when I was able to lay eyes on it, it was obviously able to lay eyes on me at the same time. And that's when it was like, okay, I got to seal the deal on this thing. And so made it work, and got a very beautiful bird on that first morning. But yeah, it was just a lot of different regions, and I think that was kind of our approach. Wanted to delve into the subspecies, but really, I think that like, to the point in Oregon, it's like they've reestablished and stocked turkeys there, and they stocked Rios there, and a turkey's going to act like a mountain turkey. A turkey's going to act like a mesquite flat turkey. A turkey's going to act like a swamp turkey. So, you know, I could be very wrong in this, but I don't know if the subspecies have different, intellectual qualities, or if they're more wily. It very well might be, but I think that it's mostly determined by their surroundings and their day-to-day predator interactions, the hunting pressure and things like that. And so when we approached it geographically, I wanted to really just reflect on these different places that were so different. And they had different trees, so there's like what, mostly scrubby small trees, interlaced with a few taller cottonwoods of oaks would be like, that's Texas, versus, these pine flats out in Georgia, versus these pine forests, which are totally different in the Pacific Northwest and the Rockies. And then you go into this old world forest of Connecticut, where it's just these hardwoods, and it's exactly what you think it's going to be like up there. It's just, Pilgrim City, it's just
Yep.
like the New England, and it's just picture perfect and just gorgeous woods up there. And so I think that we chose these spots to give it just a diversity of environment.
Well, it does that, and I think it paints it out really well and kind of gives you, each one calls for a different circumstance on, how you're going to hunt. Obviously, in the snow versus, someplace in Texas where, sometimes we might be sitting there in 90 degrees, 90% humidity, waiting on a turkey in the morning. And so you look at that versus 19 degrees or whatever, 9-day difference there. And, like you said, too, all those elements that come into how you approach them. What's the pressure looking like? What's it like? Are there other hunters? Is there other calling? And, there's so much. And like you said, it's very nuanced. I was, when you were talking about that, I was thinking about like Connecticut and like all the rock walls and stuff, and like going in because you're hunting in a lot of those places in a very like there's a lot of folks houses around. I mean, there's private lands that you got access to, but you have to be, very mindful of boundaries, anywhere you are. But there's it can be dangerous because I mean, I used to live in Western Massachusetts. I lived in Boston, and I know there's parts where you're just driving through in the town, and there's just a bunch of turkeys going through someone's yard, and there may be someone who's at the end of that, at a park or something that's going to be hunting those, but it's tight quarters and there's a lot of people. It's a whole different environment than, the wide open expanse and things too. So I know like in your book, it was kind of brought me back to those, days of driving around those areas when I lived there, and kind of I could really get a sense of that. And yes, how there is a lot of times there's a lot of farmland and stuff there too, obviously, but there's some spots where you have to be, it's a little pocket that you're hunting. And you kind of, y'all had that too. There's houses around and you could hear the road traffic and, probably maybe help you guys as you're going through. And then I loved how you guys came around and there's a part in the book where you guys come back through a rock wall and you're standing there and like, and you're being super quiet and you turn to your hunting partner and you said like probably wasn't the best question for me to lead with, but I was like, why does it smell so damn good?
Yeah.
What was it that was cut down there? Some kind
Yeah.
of olive tree or something?
Well, yeah, not like an olive, like
Right.
producing olive, but it was called autumn olive. And it was just like I mean, it just smelled incredible. And like as soon as we couldn't speak because we had roosted this bird and we got in really tight on it. And the whole morning I'm just sitting there like, like can't wait to ask the guy. I'm like, why does it smell so good right here? And finally, we had the opportunity. There's like just some traffic noise, or I think actually the bird had just bailed on us finally. And I'm like, okay, go ahead and ask this question now. Yeah, I mean, I think that all these places, and we didn't really realize this until after the fact, but gave us a really great uh, snapshot of where you can hunt turkeys and how different these situations can be. Rather, like I was saying, it can be the mountains, it can be swamps, it can be we started off on a vast private ranch in Texas, and some people are gonna be like, well, that's, and I'm like, well, yeah, but I got access to it, so I'm going,
Yeah, yeah.
and
No
we've worked
apologies. Yeah.
hard. Yeah, we've worked hard to maintain a good turkey population there, to create one actually, which we discuss in the book, is like
Mhm.
what we've done to try to improve the population there. And then winding up in Connecticut, where, like you said, it's just like there's these rock walls that just are, sequester this little plot and this plot, and it's very very different. I mean, the whole mindset of filling out permission slips and lots and lots of private land, little private areas, and then also lots of public land. And so we were, within a day, we might weave from public land and then go right on to private land that we had permission to go on, things like that. So it was really interesting. And at the end of the day, I'm so thankful that we got to experience that, because what I wanted to is be able to speak to as many turkey hunters as possible. From my perspective as a relative novice to it and someone that loves it, but just to be able to go out there and have the experiences, hopefully that just some of them have, whereas like, oh, I hunt public land in New England, or I hunt, in palmetto swamps, or if you hunt in Texas, you pretty much have to hunt on private land for turkey. I mean, there's hardly any opportunities for uh, public here at all. Um, and so, or in the mountains for that matter, it's like it, and just really wanted to be able to speak to everyone through that. And at the end of it, it's like, oh, we kind of got that, we got
Yeah.
such a great diversity of experiences.
No, you really did in all the different regions. I think there's some universal things within any kind of turkey hunting, regardless of the region, right? I mean, there's this unpredictability. There's different things that you learn too. Like there's obviously that dominant bird, and then like the satellite birds. There's a lot of things you talk to that I think paints a picture too for someone who may be just getting into it, because there's a lot of folks who, are coming into the outdoor world that haven't before, or maybe they're picking back up. And so I think it's cool. It kind of gives you that the language of what it is that maybe more advanced turkey hunters than myself at least are talking about, and saying, hey, this might be why this happened, and just things to consider, because there's nuances with every hunt, but I think that there's a lot of different things to think about. And there are areas too, like in our family ranch in South Texas in Dimmitt County, there we used to have a lot of turkeys, and now there's none, man. I got a Jake a couple seasons back, and I had seen him on camera. I hadn't seen any other birds there, and it's something that I'm now. My approach isn't like, oh, there's a turkey, I'm going to get it. Like now this year, I was like, you know what? If there's a turkey or a few turkeys, maybe we just watch them, photograph and video them, because if there's a lack of them in that area, we might want to back up and not try to, just put something in the freezer and think about being able to maybe then repeatedly put something in the freezer in years to come, because
Mhm.
there are areas you talked about it when you guys were in Georgia there, with your buddy too. Like y'all were talking about making sure you're taking the right bird, and there's a reason too. So I think each area people need to maybe kind of have that awareness. If there's plethora of turkeys, then maybe by all means take whatever one. But maybe you want to have a dominant bird that's breeding more often, because you might need those numbers, and maybe those other ones are fighting and they're not breeding as much because they're battling each other, and you got to be cognizant of those things. So that was something that was kind of fun to read, and kind of take that next like aha moment, like, oh yeah, that's something I need to consider a little bit more. It kind of made me think a little bit more along the lines of not only just consumption, but conservation as a whole and what you can do. And I mean, you kind of nod to you know Turkey Federation, and there's a Tom Kelly, which is that correct? I think I read in the book you guys had the same birthday as well. Is that
Yeah, that's right.
That's
Yeah,
really cool, man. That's
yeah,
fun.
yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that, especially after coming off of writing a book about feral hogs, which is, I mean, basically the approach to them is kill them all,
Hmm.
young and old. Like, and to go from something that has an exploding invasive population to something that in some places is thriving, but in a lot of places is not, and to encourage their consumption, which is what I'm doing. I'm like, yeah, get out there and hunt them, and let's eat them, but it has to be done in a much more mindful way, just like you said. And I think that there are some of the most incredible and dedicated conservation groups out there. NWTF,
Hmm.
for example. I mean, just boots on the ground action, habitat, and improvement, and then also disseminating the information to people that are either involved in public land hunting or private land hunting on how to do habitat improvement, which is, in my perspective, like probably the best thing for turkeys is to how do you improve their habitat? Do you open up an area, or how do you honestly just control predation? If that's what's really taking them out. And so I think NWTF provides an incredible resource for that, and they've got a lot of people behind. I mean, they've just their membership alone is just incredible, and it speaks to their mission and their success too, and in revitalizing this incredible bird to huntable populations, which is the thing the non-hunter never understands. It's just like, oh, you want to kill them all? No, that's not at all what we're saying. And in fact, when was the last time you did anything to help a wild turkey? And the answer is usually never. Whereas you've got this incredible organization, or many organizations, but especially NWTF, that's out there and just and helping it along. And I think it's just Turkey should be an indelible part of our landscape always, and it's something that we should really strive for. And if you can get out there and put a couple of them in your freezer and then watch a few dozen more, then you've really succeeded.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think it bears mentioning, like, the idea too, if people are out there and they're private landowners, reaching out to your NRCS agent, talking to local people about what you can maybe do. Like on our property, we took out a bunch of invasive, trees, these non-indigenous brush and stuff, and we ended up planting a bunch of natural grasses and forbs that were native to that area in Central Texas, and worked with the seed company, and they recommend it, and there's funding available to do that. And one of the goals that we had was to be able to have some of these 3 to 6 acre fields that we could be able to have these higher grasses. They're better for turkeys for whenever they're having their young. It also helps for fawns and things too, where maybe they can be able to reach out past that time of when predation can be the highest number, and they can kind of live and
Yeah.
kind of give them that safety, and also places for them to be able to just go through and have just better habitat overall. So I think it's something too that, with all animals, there's something that you can get from your NRCS agent, and there's a lot of resources that's out there. So if you're looking to, improve that habitat, because I mean, you and I know this, but maybe some of the listeners might not. There's a lot of areas that didn't have turkeys before, that some of these organizations came through and repopulated them because they
Mhm.
were hunted down to, very dangerously low numbers, or there's counties that were eradicated fully and now have them again. So I think that's something too that that relocation of these areas that were being repopulated, because they once were they were flourishing, right? They were thriving,
Mhm.
and then they went to no numbers, and especially with deer too. There's a lot of different areas that I think people don't understand that. And I was just wanted to also mention too, when you're talking about like that conservation too, and these other organizations, us as hunters, anytime you're buying equipment, anytime you're buying ammo, you're buying your license, there's a lot of money that goes back into the conservation funds for this. I mean, hunters, anglers, target hunters, or shooters, that a lot of those, a lot of those funds go back with the Pittman Robertson, or Robertson Pittman. I say it backwards every time, so I said it both. One of those is correct, but that's something that really, our taxes get back more than anyone else. So I think those same people who might be like, oh, y'all are just trying to kill them, it's like, part of the reason some of these are there is because there is people that want to hunt them and utilize them and know where their meat comes from, which
Yeah.
I think is super important. Um, Along those lines, too, you mentioned something in the book where you talk about if someone has the ability for 5 to 7 days to kind of, keep your turkey in a very cool, dry space. That before you go ahead and vacuum seal it and throw it into the freezer, that will help with the firmness. And, if you said, oh, if you don't do that, it won't have too much of a negative effect. Can you maybe talk to that idea of like what you may see a difference of if you were kind of, I guess, aging it, before you freeze it for those days, and like what? Because I can have some assumptions in my mind, but I don't know if they'd be right. So I'd like for you to kind of address that, and maybe what are those differences between going through that process and maybe not? Is there a real discernible difference to you?
Sure, there is, and I think that I get this question a lot about processing, breaking down animals, getting them cold, and when to start the butchering process after that. And often in context of deer and hogs, turkeys, ducks, everything.
Mhm.
And I think my first overarching answer is to do it when you're able, and not beat yourself up about like, oh no, I need to let this animal chill for X number of days before I can effectively do it. And so a lot of times, I mean, for me, like I might break a hog down because there's a cold front the day after, it's just like, but it's going to warm back up into the 70s. But if I can comfortably sit outside in the 40s, on my porch and have basically an outdoor refrigerator while I'm breaking an animal down, I'm gonna take that route. And so, and that completely undoes all these things I'm saying, like, oh, for a hog, 8 days is great, but if it's going to be cold after 2 days, 2 days is also great,
Yeah.
Turkey's the same way. I think that again, I'm going to restate what I always say and just like keep animals cold and dry, not cold and wet, cold and as dry as possible. However, you can achieve that under 40 and as dry as possible until you start cutting on it. So, I mean, hanging it in a walk in, sure, that's great. In a cooler where it's not in direct contact with ice. And that goes for pigs and deer as well, which is very contentious. Um, but I do think that with turkeys, you do experience this kind of flop with them where they're very fresh. It might affect their tenderness a little bit, or it probably will. I mean, usually if you eat something where it's super fresh, it's not going to be as tender. That goes for a deer or a hog. If
Mhm.
you let any of these animals kind of age for, and chill for a few days, they will start to kind of relax, become more tender. I think yes. I mean, a turkey will start to firm up very nicely after 3, 4, 5 days if kept nice and cold and dry, and you might not experience so much of that wobble that they can have. But it's not a hill I want to die on at all because they're just objectively delicious birds, and there might be a nominal amount of more of like chewiness to it, but not even in a bad way, from not quote unquote aging it or letting it chill for that long. So really, I'm more in the camp, and my whole goal is to encourage people to process their entire animal and cook it and enjoy it further. And so, last thing I want to do is go in and add all these stipulations or make it harder or guilt people about or overcomplicate it or cause any self doubt there. So really, I think for me, it's imperative that we just attach some very simple rules, cold and dry,
Mhm.
and then at your or at your convenience after that, not necessarily your earliest, but just at your convenience after that, get in there and try to process that animal. Enjoy the processing, like enjoy this time spent with the animal afterwards. It's just kind of a new campaign. I'm just like, I think that we're hyper focused on the fun stops, either when you take the shot or when you walk up to the animal and then you're like, oh hell, now all the work starts. It's like I'm like a whole new array of work starts now that is also highly enjoyable to me. And I think if we can realign our wants, like what we're looking for out of this whole process, to embracing the plucking of the bird or the eviscerating or the breaking it down the packaging, you can spend time with a friend or a loved one and package and, like, oh, you're on labels. Oh, hey, you did a great job vac sealing that with the kids,
Yeah.
get it in the freezer, and then the enjoyment of cooking it. If we can just realign to enjoying the entire spectrum, this is a very broad answer to a very specific question, by the way. I'm
No,
sorry.
man, this is
But
good. I like where you're going.
I think that, yeah, instead of bogging down a little bit in specifics, is just kind of embrace some just rough general guidelines that will improve game. Like keeping things dry and cold for a while and trusting your nose. I had a client recently who's like, "Is this deer aged too long?" I'm like, "You'll know." Like you'll know. Like your brain is hardwired to tell you when deer is not good to eat anymore, and until that point, I'm pretty sure that it's going to be fine. So I think that, yeah, like I said, realigning what we want out of the process and trying to enjoy it more, and just taking it day by day and just saying, oh, hey, I've hung the turkey or I've kept it in the cooler nice and dry. It's only been 3 days, but I got to get to work in 3 hours. I'm going to go ahead and just bust it down, vac seal it, and put it in the freezer. And then if you were to tell me that that was your plan, I'd be like, that's great. That's great. I really, yeah, you did not do anything wrong. That's exactly how it should be done. And I hope that all those dishes come out beautifully and your family's happy.
No, it's very important. I'm glad you touched upon that because I think, there's a lot of people who will like that idea that work begins. Like for my buddy like Matthew Mitchell and I who hunt together a lot and he's quite a cook. Like that's where another level of the fun begins. I mean, look at it work. It's like, yes, there's things you have to do in the time and you got to move along. If it's hot, you got to kind of get to that animal as quick as you can, cool it down and dry as quick as you can. But that's fun. And then, you're thinking about like we're always butchering stuff up and like, okay, that's going to go for that meal. This is going to be how we're going to cook this. Oh man, that cool new recipe from the turkey book. We're going to try that out. Okay, like there's different things when you're looking at that meat and figuring out what you're going to do with it that I think is just as important. And like, I think, can't remember if we talked about it last time you were on, or if maybe I just heard you talk about it before and maybe a post, but like for those who like, it's like you go out to like the dove lease, right? You drive 4 hours, you go, shoot your limit in 30 minutes, and then why not spend half that time of driving you did to be able to take, defeather and pluck these birds and like the amount of time we spend and the money we spend leading up to that, we should enjoy the process of preparing our foods for our family and our friends just as much. And I think it's one of those things we have to have that time spent in honoring that animal in that time of what you're going to do with it later on, all the preparation instead of just kind of quickly throwing it down and getting in the freezer, whatever. I think anything you can do to prepare it where it's going to be the tasting the best, having the most experience. But I find it to just be super fun when breaking down. So I wasn't always that way. I've definitely gained the knowledge, and I think that's for people who are listening who are maybe are coming in the first time hunting, maybe, particular animals, something like the hog book, the turkey book is going to be very valuable for them to learn about butchering. You guys in the book, you talk about, plucking and then, cutting out and skinning too. So you kind of leading people along whatever path they want to choose in their adventure. And I really love, man, again, the photography is just second to none, man. Jody and Sam did such an amazing job with all those. It's really, it's a work of art, man. I'm so stoked for you, man. I mean, I can't wait to get it in my hands, and I'm sure you as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, we can't wait to get it out there. It was a incredible experience to be able to hang out with all these people and put it together. And again, I love it, and I hope that it shows. I have a lot of enthusiasm for it, and I grew to love these birds, and I grew to love them out of from the way I normally grow to love something is I love to eat them. Like I just absolutely love eating turkey. Like on my birthday, which happens, it's Tom Kelly's birthday, Colonel Tom, is kind of at the tail end of turkey season. So with any luck around my birthday every year, I'm going to have some turkey breast and I'm going to have some dewberries. And it's like those two things for me are that represent like probably my favorite meal, and it's not something extreme or fancy. It's like, well, I love fried turkey with gravy and mashed potatoes, probably some greens, but we can do green beans that time of year too. That's perfectly fine. And then a dewberry cobbler. And like to me, that's just like that's what I want to eat. And so like coming at it from that direction, and then I was like, oh wow, and they're also like probably the most enthralling hunt that I've ever been on, and a really good excuse to be out in the spring, no less.
Yeah.
At the most, arguably the most beautiful time of year, especially here in Texas. Just everything is just exploding. The birds are, just like all the bird life is
Yeah.
talking. Thing is just growing. It's verdant. It's just like it's so beautiful, and it's so wonderful to be out that time of year. And like what we're so lucky to be able to experience things like this, and yeah, I just hope that the enthusiasm is conveyed for that, and like plucking a bird with friends, or standing around it because you've got the time. Come on, you've
Yeah.
got the time.
Yeah. You do.
It's like to say that like, oh, it takes too long to pluck these doves. It's like, listen, yeah, like you said, listen, there's a 4 hour drive out here, or even a 1 hour drive. It's like time spent in the car is no, you're not going to convince me is any better than time plucking a dove. Like,
Right.
I mean, come on, because you can still listen to your podcast. you know, you can still listen to some music. You can legally drink a beer.
Yes. Yes. There you
You are
go.
allowed to have an open container while plucking doves. And so, I mean, I don't know what more argument I need.
That's really the foundational one right there from here on
Yeah,
out. I'm not going to drive anymore. I'm just going to drink some beers in the field, pluck
there
dogs,
you go.
man.
There you go. There you go.
Oh, you talked about like that being your birthday meal and your death row meal
Yeah.
for fried wild turkey. I was actually going to ask you too, if for some reason wild turkey is not available, what is your second or third go-to meal for birthday or the death row meal? What is it that you're like, man, I'm preparing this if that isn't available?
Crab cakes, blue
Ooh,
crab. Yeah, 100%. So yeah, blue crab. We just pulled the traps. We got 16 big old male, what they call whales. Just like those like 1 pounders, blue crabs. I'm gonna boil those, chill them. We're gonna pick that meat, and I'm gonna make the biggest batch of crab cakes ever in a salad. I like crab cakes with a salad, and some sort of like homemade mayonnaise that's flavored probably with basil or some other herb, and a lot of white wine. I mean, technically that could be the first course before the fried turkey.
oh yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know
No, I
why.
mean if it's your birthday or your
Yeah, it's
last
my
meal, you
birthday.
get to
Yeah,
choose these
yeah,
things,
yeah.
man.
So I'd go crab cakes, definitely, 100%. I love, obviously, I love crab cakes.
Yeah. What now? If it was a big game animal, what would you go for?
Probably. Oh no, I would do axes. I would probably eat raw axes. Probably tartare. Just a
Yep.
classic tartare preparation. Just diced, probably backstrap, axes deer. A little mustard, a little shallot, maybe a little raw onion in there. A nice, beautiful egg yolk from a very reputable farm on top of that, and a side of fries.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
We play this game all day long.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a certain point we're going to get so hungry we're going to have to retreat to kitchens. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
no, but I was just, yeah, I was very curious about that because I mean, I think fried wild turkey is one of the best ways to give an introduction to people who are hunting, and especially like kids. And I mean, even in your book there, you have some pictures of you and your daughter, like preparing those and stuff too, which is really cool. I like seeing that, and hearing about you talking to her and how you're like, this is all for hopefully something that we'll share together. And I can echo that statement too, with hoping that my little one, and I appreciate your throw out on that idea, the single shot too, because I'm letting my younger one move from the 410 on up, so that'll be valuable as well to check out. But doing something there together with the family, and like I've done fried turkey, and I've done like turkey cordon bleu for
Hmm.
folks too. And I mean, anytime you're throwing a bunch of prosciutto or bacon or just all sorts of really amazing cheeses, I feel like it kind of hides the wild turkey though a little bit. It's a great tasting dish, and there's a lot of things I've done with it, but I think it masks it a little bit. So I'm always looking for different things that'll be kind of okay. Here's the second meal to show you
Hmm.
guys what this can feature, and there's so many amazing ones in there. I think it's really important too that for those who didn't know, like turkey legs, a lot of folks I've known before, like, well, I don't keep them, or I've heard them say that. And people that I hunt with keep them always because they're delicious. You just have to maybe do a little bit of different preparation. And I know that this may be mundane for you to talk about a little bit, but can you maybe address the idea of what you're doing with turkey legs and what are some of the things that people need to know and why you need to keep them?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I love that question. And I mean, I was being very kind earlier about, like, oh, don't be hard on yourself about this and that. But if you're not saving your turkey legs, I think you should be hard on yourself. I'm sorry. Like, that's probably about 45% of the usable bird
Yeah.
right there. And if you've had a bad experience with turkey legs, it's because you didn't cook them long enough. Done. Period. And they more than likely need to be cooked in some sort of liquid. I think the crock pot is bar none the best way to do that. In fact, for dinner, not tonight, but tomorrow, I'm making a tortilla soup from the turkey book. And
Awesome.
I just had a leg in the crock pot. Um, but it took a long time to cook. I mean, I let it roll overnight. And so we're probably talking about maybe start to finish 10 hours. And you do need to allow it to have a lot of time. At the end of that, though, what I have is a lot of broth and a lot of shredded meat, which gives me multiple opportunities to or recipes that I can apply that towards. So in this case, I chose the tortilla soup. But I try to put this in the books a lot where like you can do a method that will like yield broth and shredded meat. And then here's one, two, three, four, five, six, maybe more recipes that you can use with said shredded meat. Um, and then you also have this beautiful stock that you've made, and it's like it's better than water. I mean, in fact, it's very good. It's nutrient dense. It's delicious. You can either use that in the recipe or you can substitute that where somebody's saying, "Oh, you need to use chicken stock." It's like, why would you do that? You just made turkey stock.
Yeah.
And a leg yields a surprising amount. People are like, "Oh, but the tendons." I'm like, listen, like they will you just pick them right out. It's so easy. They're the hard white pieces. Remove them. It's so easy. And yeah, I think that the legs absolutely have to be kept. If I was in charge, it would be a law.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also how interesting it is, like how different the legs and breasts are on a turkey. I mean, the breast is a highly approachable white meat. Like you were saying, it's a wonderful introduction to people who may be leery about game. You're like, no, here, try this wild turkey, where it's just like it's recognizable, but it still has enough of flavor of a singular unique flavor that is that of wild turkey and only wild turkey, that they can recognize while at the same time being completely in the realm of everyday food. They're like, oh, this is easy. I mean, like if they're like, I would never eat wild game, I mean, then they're eating like, yes, of course, this is great, you know um and but then the legs represent something totally different. They're very dark. They're very rich, and they can be tough. I mean, if you think about that animal, it ran around all day.
All
It's
day.
it's an athlete. Those legs versus the amount that it uses its breast to power its wings. They need to be cooked for a very long time, and it just really requires some planning more than anything else. And I think that's where people might get tied up, is that they pull out a turkey leg and they want in the afternoon, and they're like, "Let's have this for dinner." It's like, no, I mean tomorrow
Yeah. The
maybe,
next
but
day
not
or the
tonight.
following.
Yeah, and I think but it's so simple to take that, cut an onion in half, throw a bay leaf in there, cover it with water, put it on low, wake up in the morning to this delicious smell, and then go from there. But absolutely, keep the legs. I love the heart, liver, gizzard because it represents such a good volume, and they're also very mildly flavored
Mhm.
for those organs. Like I mean, venison liver, for instance, pretty strong.
Yeah.
Turkey liver, however, pretty mild and very, very good for making things like boudin or pâtés and things like that. And so it's very simple. It's also large and it yields a good amount. I mean, there's whole dishes that you can make with the heart, liver, gizzard that probably feed four people if
Yeah.
you stretched it appropriately. And I just love tricks like that. But speaking of the legs specifically, I really feel like it's not hard to remove them, especially if you're skinning. You don't have to pluck if that's not your desired outcome is to have the skin on there. And so they're real easy to skin and just break them off, and you're almost doubling your take home yield from that hunt, and they're very enjoyable.
Oh, I learned the hard way by not cooking it long enough. And it was something that I was like, I probably needed to double that time. And I forgot I did some kind of Pasolo, forget it, say it, Pasolo?
Pasole, pasole.
um, and I did you have one that was like a Verde in the field book, was it? There was
There was a crab pasole.
okay,
Yeah,
gotcha. I just recalled reading about that. I forgot where I had found this one, but a bunch of hominy, and it was just a wonderful soup that I made. And I tried one with red wine too another time, just to really seeing different ways to break it down and just sampling. And I think that's part of the fun too, is you have something like an open playbook, and you look at the turkey book, and you can just see all the different ways you can try. Like you said, there may be like 4 or 5 different ways you can try to do this. Once you've had this, you break it down, different broths you can reuse. There's so many different ways to utilize that and try things out and figure out what you and your family like, and go from there. And it's, I'm always happy when I get one turkey in the freezer. But this book has made me, it's reinvigorated something with me, Jesse. Like, I want to take it to that nth degree and make sure that I can fill the freezer with more. Like, as we've talked about before, my place in Central Texas, it's a one turkey town, right? I mean, that's what you get in South Texas. You can have in Texas, you can have up to 4 a year, but out there, it's being kind of really run down as far as the turkey hunting's going. So, I'm definitely looking to expand things out and talk to some other friends, maybe trade some hunts, because I really want to cook more with wild turkey. It's something that I find to be one of my favorite things to work with, next to hogs. And 10 years ago, you would have never heard that statement out of my mouth. Like, it was all about deer and, if someone brought some elk around, but I'm really enjoying that and getting into small game a lot too. So I'm really just super excited to hopefully get something on the ground this year. And I think I got like one leg and one breast left. Um, and I was actually curious too, because I have some sandhill crane. Is there some of the things that are in the turkey book that you would maybe say, hey, you could also try this with sandhill crane? Is there any that are kind of replaceable in there that you would maybe point someone in the direction to if they had some sandhill crane around?
The legs would probably be fairly similar in that it's
Hmm.
going to take a long time to braise them out. So yeah, I think so. The breasts, on a sandhill, I always think, just like highest and best use of breast is to kind of cook them like a steak, a
Yep.
medium rare, which is not what you would do with turkey.
Right.
So I think the breasts are going to kind of pose like a bit of a different species, or a bit
Yep.
of a different situation,
Yeah.
and where I probably wouldn't, but the legs, yes, I would. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that's the
Yeah.
short answer.
Yeah. No, that's great, man. I got to thinking too, you've got the hog book, you've got the turkey book. And so I have to ask, will we one day see the crappy book? Because the name alone warrants a book, you know? I'll order the first 10 copies right now, man. I'll get the
Yeah,
ball rolling.
yeah. I mean, I did cover crappie in a field a bit, and it is something that is very near and dear to my heart. And also poses a real existential crisis to me. I am proud non-boat owner. I have a canoe and a kayak, but for the most part, I have no motorized boats in my arsenal. And so my crappie fishing is very much confined to the spring, along with my other favorite, which is the white bass. And I, I I'm really running into a real problem in that turkey season, white bass season, and crappie season are all kind of happening at the same time, and I don't know how to like break up my time in order to address all of those, especially crappie and turkeys. Because a white bass run a little bit earlier, you can kind of get like February, early March on those, but everything, the crappie and the turkeys are a little too concurrent for me, and so I'm in my second season of really dealing with this terrible personal issue. And so I'm trying to figure it out this year. Also, I get hyper focused, and it's like while I'm in turkey brain, I can't go fish for crappie. Like I
Yeah.
and then and like it's hard for me to bounce back and forth between them. But I think this year I'm gonna have to man up a bit and figure out how to make that so and go and do both.
Well, and it's not like you have anything else going on. For those who are maybe not fully familiar with the scope of your work and projects, let's go ahead and just give a real brief description of what you got going on with Dai Due and New School Traditional Cookery, if you don't mind. Just spend a short time. So we talked about it in the last podcast. I'll put the links down below. You can learn a little bit more. But for those who may be new listeners, maybe just to go ahead and give them a little glimpse of that.
Yeah, so Daidue is my restaurant. I'm fortunate enough where we have a very talented chef who runs the day to day, but I'm there quite a bit. I'm about to head up there in a little while. It's in the east side of Austin. Been there. We'll be at 10 years. We'll have our 10-year anniversary this August.
Congrats.
Yeah, it's a long time for a restaurant,
Yeah.
especially in the past few years. It's a tough life. But yeah, so we have a restaurant. It's a very locally focused restaurant. We serve lemons only when they're in season. Our tea. I'm sure you're familiar with Yopon. Our iced tea is made out of Yopon. All the meats and seafood, seafood all comes out of the Gulf. All the meats are locally sourced. All of our dairy, all of our vegetables. It's a fun place to eat. It's fairly meat focused and a lot of stuff grilled over oak. We do a lot of butchery in house and pretty much make everything from scratch. I like it a lot. And then we also have the New School Traditional Cookery, which is the educational branch of that. I do start to finish hunting, butchery, and cookery classes, mostly hog and deer focused. Obviously, trying to branch out a little bit. We've done a lot of fishing in the past, but trying to create a more robust program. But usually this time of year or during hunting season, I'm down there quite a bit. We do these 4-day classes, starting with sighting in all the way through packaging of flying. But those are very popular. It's very hard to keep up, and I would love to, in the next couple of years, start to develop a plan that could accommodate more people because I think we'd have so much demand, and it's hard to reach everybody. And I love the educational aspect of it. So I love teaching butchery classes and cooking and talking about stuff like that, and just helping people along with just getting more confidence and empowerment as far as breaking down animals and utilizing them to their potential. So NSTC does that for us, and then yeah, so now 3 books in. I never saw that coming, but the hog book and the turkey book are both available through our. We're self-published. Jody handles that, and who's the photographer / publisher. So they're now available under an umbrella called the Wild Books, and that's the wildbooks.com. And the turkey book and hog book are both available through there.
And then
So I think,
Bezos has a field if you guys need that, right?
yeah, Jeff
Still
will
got a
sell you
few.
one of those. Yeah, that's the best way to get it. Oh, we have them at the restaurant too
Yeah.
if you want to avoid Jeff. But yeah, he'll sell you one, no
And
problem.
and then pre-orders are available right now at thewildbooks.com. That's you have Turkey Book, you're going to have some that are signed too. And is
Correct.
that last time you had some with you and Jody? Is Sam going to get in on the signature side of things there too? How are you going to deal with the
Honestly, I
logistics?
don't think so because Sam is in Bozeman, and so I think the shipping conundrum that we would have,
Yes.
or we'd have to fly him down here just to wear his hand out, signing books. Sam was imperative in the creation of these books, though, and so highly appreciated. We're also very excited because we're going to have a bundle with NWTF where you can get a year membership to NWTF and a book at $10 off each of those, so a $20 savings total. for those. So you can get a book and a membership. If you're already a member, then it will automatically tag on a year from the date of purchase of your membership with NWTF, and you get a really good savings out of that. So we're really
Nice.
excited to offer that as well.
That's great, man. I know you've worked with a bunch of different organizations. Are there some other ones that you're kind of, you know, doing some work with now? I mean, I don't want to spill any projects if there's anything coming out, but just some other ones that you kind of near and dear to your heart that you might want to just kind of give a shout out to or think, maybe people should take a look at, and obviously they're huge in the turkey world, but are there some other ones that you kind of would say, hey guys, you should check this one out as well?
Certainly. I mean, my friend Graham Jones, he always puts it best. He says there's a lot of room in the sandbox for everybody. And, here in Texas, and we usually are trying to just work on a more local level. I mean, I feel
Hmm.
like I can get a lot more done, in Texas than a more broader scope. So
Sure.
we work a lot with, you know, I, my two favorite organizations here are, one of them is a private lands advocacy group and one is a public lands advocacy group. And I love working with them both, and I love how they get along in this state, because we're all on the same team here, and that'd be the Texas Wildlife Association and also backcountry hunters and anglers. There's not that many public opportunities in Texas, but they still get out there and represent, and then mostly focus on conservation at this point, which is great. And there's never any need or any end in need
Right.
for conservation focuses these days. And then also TWA, which advocates for public land, I'm sorry, private land,
Mhm.
and helping landowners just get the max usage out of that, and then how to conserve on their land and how to improve the stewardship of that. And they also bring a lot of new hunters out to these private lands through their adult learn to hunt program, which I am a huge fan of. I think it is an exemplary program and should be copied by the lesser states.
Yeah.
Um, it is a really incredible program, and they cycle a lot of new hunters through that program and gain access to some really beautiful ranches, and also give these landowners a really good opportunity to maintain and manage their animal populations in the absolutely the best way possible, I think. You also know, you talked to Doug Duran, who's also
Hmm.
doing very similar things up north. I mean, another really wonderful human being right there who does some really good work. And it's just, I love to see stuff like that. So, I think that, new hunters are always asking, like, well, how do I go about it? And I'm like, get in with these organizations, like just contact them. They're not only going to provide you with resources and contacts, but they're also the ones that we should be supporting right now, because they're advocating for everyone here, navigating a very complicated land
Yeah.
situation here in Texas, but I think very, very well. And so I always would encourage anybody that's interested in getting into hunting to both those organizations represent some really good opportunities for getting out in the woods.
Yeah. No, I strongly, strongly agree. I mean, I talked to Justin, the CEO at TWA, and learned more about what they have going and all the different levels of involvement people can get into, the youth programs, the learn to hunt programs, the different things that are partnered with the Texas Parks and Wildlife, and just getting folks out there, man. There's so many great opportunities that, I didn't really know or look into before having private land at my disposal. And just seeing how, how would someone start? We had a buddy of ours, Johnny, who had never even fired a rifle a year ago. And so we took him through the idea of like really safety instruction. We kind of did it on our own, buddy Matthew and I, on our land. Then he would work on the property, and we're buddies. So it wasn't like you have to do this or you can't hunt. Like it just ended up being part of the package of like learning to get involved and see a property and really kind of expand your knowledge of that. And then he hunted it. So it was a cool, real 360 moment. But that hasn't been available for a lot of people. And I think it can be discouraging. But when you find these programs and these initiatives and these associations that offer these weekends where you can go out there and in some cases free, or it's a small fee to get in there and get your feet wet and kind of understand. And I know you've done some stuff too where you volunteered times for hunts and kind of, been a mentor of sorts too. And I think I kind of want to leave this on that idea too, that you spoke about it in our last podcast, and the idea too of that the idea of the like wanting to teach teachers, like spend it sharing this knowledge so that those other people can be able to expand upon that and share that knowledge. And whether that's in a kitchen or in the field, I think this idea of mentorship, sharing this collective nature of our knowledge of really being able to put this out there in what will best benefit our lives, enrichment for getting out there, and also our health for eating really good food, and really for the habitat for our future generations. You know, we have children, we want to leave it better for them, for the grandchildren, for 7 generations down the line. So I think it's very imperative that we have that part of the discussion with everything we're doing too, because that conservation and the ethics that are there in place today leave it better tomorrow. And I think that's something that you've spoken to and wanting to do this in a local way. So I like that you also pinpointed that here, and act local, right? So it's important, man.
Yeah, I couldn't put that better myself. That's awesome.
Well, I
Yeah.
stole it from the writing you did earlier. So,
Okay.
well, is there anything else that you kind of want to, tell people about, or kind of let them know, or kind of some final thoughts or words, as we're kind of approaching the turkey season, as it's starting to maybe thaw out a little bit, and it's just right around the corner, man. So, if there's any kind of thing you want to give, or a message, or maybe just, people that have, supported you over these years.
Yeah, I mean, just get out there. I think that like if you're new to hunting, and you want to get into turkey, I think do that with a great deal of grace and patience, because that's they're going to demand that of you. Um, and then if you're an experienced turkey hunter, it's just like I I mean I can't really offer you that much in advice, because I'm still right in the middle, and just I feel like I'm a bit of a novice, but I'm just like the happiest of novices, because it's the best school to go to. It's just being sitting out there and experiencing turkey season. I love it. I mean, I'm on a countdown right now. I think we're about 7.5 weeks out from my first turkey hunt. Who's counting? I just get out there, and I love that, people are still so motivated to go and do this thing, and that we have so many new people that are interested in it, whether you've been doing it your whole life, or you're just wanting to get into it. There's still so much to be learned about it. And I think just, valuing everything as a resource, whether it is a hog or a turkey, everything is a potential resource, and there's so much that can be done with it, and there's so much enjoyment and so much fulfillment that you get out of being out there. And I'm so happy to be able to be a part of that and get to have conversations like this around that, and basically make that my whole job, which I have a great job. And so I really love it. And so I'm very appreciative when I get an opportunity like this, and I can come on and talk to you, and therefore speak to a bunch of other people about this. And so, yeah, just get out there and enjoy it, and remember that it's a blessing to have that, and then we should treat it as such. So it's a real valuable thing, and it will go away if we don't take care of it, and if we don't maintain it and admire it on a personal level every time.
Great points there. Great points. Well said, man. Well, everyone go check out daidui.com, thewildbooks.com, and Daidui. You can be able to search then for Daidui or New School Traditional Cookery. There's kind of a branch off there from that. And for those who want to follow you and your journey, can you give them your Instagram handle and where they can find you?
Yeah, it's sac-a-lait. It's the Southern Louisiana term for crappie, as we spoke of earlier. It's sac.a.lait. And follow me on Instagram for lots of pictures of turkey.
Yes, hopefully a bunch
Hopefully.
more this
Uh,
season as well, man.
uh, uh,
I'm excited for you, man. So as always, I'll let you know whenever we're heading out to the ranch, and when if we can get you out there for turkey hunt in your busy schedule, would love to have you. If not, we'll have some dewberries aplenty to go ahead and pick and hang out with. So we got to make that happen this year.
Perfect.
Good deal. Hey, Jesse, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it, and all the best and all the success. Congratulations on the turkey book. Cannot wait for that to get in everybody's hands. I was, blessed and honored to get an early sneak peek, and I find it to be one of the most fascinating best cooking related books I've ever seen, and your writing is second to none. Everyone go check it out. You can pre-order today, get the signed copy, and whenever the NWTF bundle comes out, make sure you're grabbing that as well, everyone. So thanks again and have a great day.